It's my pleasure today to have with us Dave Angell, who's president of the Hudson Valley Bluegrass Association, and also a mean mandolin player in his own right with the band Hudson Crossing, the local band. Look for them. They're performing in the area. And as I've said before, if you go to hdbluegrass.org, our website, it's a very usable website, and you can see all the events that are coming up in the area, both ones brought in from outside, local bands. It's a great resource. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to call Dave up. It's Dave Angell, president of Hudson Valley Bluegrass.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Thank you very much for inviting me to come here and present this session on Bill Monroe and the birth of bluegrass music. The first slide that I want to show you, if I can get this, let me get this right. Yeah. I'm bringing up this slide just because I want to take a minute to talk about the influence of gospel music on bluegrass. Gospel music, in comparison to what you consider in regular churches with a choir and organ, etc., and a regular church service, gospel music is often something which is not done with instruments, but sung a cappella. And in the South, in particular, these holiness Pentecostal movement or the sanctified movement appealed to a lot of the people that were the early bluegrass musicians that came out of that tradition. And some very well-known names also, like Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Mahalia Jackson also come out of that tradition. And I just wanted to play one quick example here that was recorded in a Pentecostal church in Virginia. And it gives an example of what is called call and response, where the lead singer is going to call out something and then the congregation is going to respond. So here goes this quick 30-second example of that. I'm going to refer to this later on when I talk about the Monroe brothers. That's one of the recordings. We'll have that call and response style in it. The next slide I'd like to show you here is, well, I'll talk about for the next 3 slides, are actually called the brother acts. Brother acts were a style or a kind of grouping that was common in the 1930s and early 40s. Some of the more well-known examples of those are, first of all, here the Delmore brothers. And other examples of those groups would be the Louvin brothers, the Blue Sky Boys, the Monroe brothers, and the McGee brothers, and the Stanley brothers. These particular guys, the Delmore brothers, were born into poverty in Elkmont, Alabama. Sons of tenant farmers amid a rich tradition of gospel music and Appalachian folk. Their mother, Molly Delmore, wrote and sang gospel songs for their church. The Delmores blended gospel-style harmonies with the quicker guitar work of traditional folk music and the blues to help create the still emerging genre of country music. In the late 40s, the brothers reached their commercial peak, releasing a series of hard-driving boogies with thumping backbeats and bluesy structures. One of those, their best-known song, Blues Stay Away From Me, is regarded by some as the first rock and roll record. Some of the most popular songs they wrote were Brown's Ferry Blues, Gonna Lay Down My Old Guitar, 15 miles from Birmingham. The Delmore brothers were inducted into the Alabama Music Hall of Fame in 1989 and the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2001. And I've got a quote here from Bob Dylan, which I think is really very interesting. Bob Dylan was quoted in the Chicago Tribune on November 10th, 1985, as saying, "The Delmore Brothers, God, I really love them. I think they've influenced every harmony I've ever tried to sing." So let's listen to the Delmore Brothers for a second.
That you don't need me, but I think, baby, you've lost your mind. Someday you'll miss me, you'll want to kiss me, but honey, then I might not want to take the time.
Okay. That's the Delmore Brothers. The Louvin Brothers were an American country music duo composed of brothers Ira Loudermilk and Charlie Loudermilk. But they changed their name to a stage name of Ira and Charlie Louvin. And they helped popularize this close harmony that I've been talking about in country music. They joined the Grand Ole Opry in 1955 and stayed there until breaking up in 1963. Their songs were heavily influenced by their Baptist faith and warned against sin. And this is a real contradiction in their lives. In fact, Ira Louvin was notorious for drinking, womanizing, and short temper. I don't think he was practicing what he was preaching, in other words. He was married 4 times. His third wife, Faye, shot him 4 times in the chest and twice in the hand after he allegedly beat her. Although seriously injured, he survived. And in fact, the bad karma part of the story is that he and his 4th wife were killed in an automobile accident. A drunk driver hit them, and he was, at that point in his life, there was a warrant out for his arrest for DUI. So that's something about that. Let's listen to the Louvin Brothers.
I can't find my way behind your wall.
That's Ira there. And Charlie on the right.
If you want me, why can't I keep you in love with me? You say you're mine and I'm not mine. I know you want to be. And when you're holding me, no sweeter love could ever be.
All right. Yes. Yeah.
What is the instrument that the...
Well, the one on the left is a mandolin, although it isn't one that it's a different style mandolin than what you would normally see played in any kind of music. I don't know where he got it or who was the maker, but that's what it is. Excuse me. The third group brother act that I'll talk about are the Monroe brothers, but before I do that, I'm going to digress a little bit and talk about Bill himself, since most of what I'm going to be saying right today is about Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. So let me give you a little bit of an introduction to Bill Monroe. Bill Monroe was born September 13th, 1911 in Rosine, Kentucky. And he died on September 9th, 1996 in Springfield, Tennessee. Bill Monroe is the father of bluegrass. He invented the style, he invented the name, and for the great majority of the 20th century, he embodied the art form. Beginning with his Bluegrass Boys in the 1940s, Monroe defined a hard-edged style of country that emphasized instrumental virtuosity, close vocal harmonies, and a fast, driving tempo. The musical genre took its name from the Bluegrass Boys, and Monroe's music forever has defined the sound of classical bluegrass. A 5-piece acoustic string band playing precisely and rapidly, switching solos and singing in a plaintive, high, lonesome voice. Not only did he invent the very sound of the music, but Bill Monroe was the mentor for several generations of musicians. Over the years, Monroe's band hosted all of the major bluegrass artists of the 1950s and 60s, including Flatt and Scruggs, Reno and Smiley, Vassar Clements, Carter Stanley, and Mac Wiseman. Though the line of the Bluegrass Boys changed over the years, Monroe always remained devoted to bluegrass in its purest form. He was born into a musical family. His father had been known around their hometown of Rosine as a step dancer, and his mother played a variety of instruments and sang. His uncle Penn Vandiver was a locally renowned fiddler. Both of his older brothers, Harry and Birch, played fiddle, while his brother Charlie and sister Bertha played guitar. Bill himself became involved with music as a child, learning the mandolin at the age of 10. Following the death of his parents while he was his parents died when he was around 17. Bill Monroe went to live with his Uncle Penn, and Bill was playing in his uncle's band at local dances, playing guitar and accompanying him with dances. When he turned 18, he moved to Indiana and got a job up there in the Sinclair oil refinery and started working in a band with his brothers. Monroe's continued to perform at night, and Birch left the band in '34. Charlie and Bill decided to continue performing on as this brother duo called the Monroe Brothers. And I'm going to give you a little example here. This tune, which is called What Would You Give in Exchange for Your Soul, is recorded by the Monroe Brothers. And it is in that style of call and response that I first showed you an example of at the beginning.
What would you give in exchange? What would you give in exchange? What would you give in exchange for your soul? Oh, if today God stole you away, what would you give in exchange for your soul?
You can hear a little bit of the mandolin at the end of that. Okay, in slide 6 here, this is I'm going to talk about the birth of bluegrass. The Monroe Brothers were not the birth of bluegrass, but when Bill and Charlie parted ways, with Charlie forming the Kentucky Partners, Bill assembled his own band with the intention of creating a new form of country that melded old-time string bands with blues and challenged the instrumental abilities of the musicians. Initially, he moved to Little Rock, where he formed the Kentuckians, but that band was short-lived. He then relocated to Atlanta, where he formed the Bluegrass Boys, and began appearing on the Crossroad Rollies radio program. Wow. Monroe debuted on the Grand Ole Opry in October of 1939, singing New Mule Skinner Blues. It was a performance that made Monroe's career, as well as establishing the new genre of bluegrass. And I'm going to read some quotes now from Charles Wolfe, and then one from Bill Monroe himself. Bill's rhythm was special. It was a surging timing that anticipated the main beat, not in a way that sped up the song, but in a way that totally enlivened it. It was like the blues and jazz technique of laying slightly behind the main beat to create dramatic effect. Except in reverse, Bill Monroe subtly jumped the timing to create energy. Monroe fully recognized the significance of his innovation. And I'm going to give this example here. You'll hear Jimmy Rogers first play Mule Skinner Blues in an easy boom chick 2 beat like it was any other country lament. Monroe uses a driving guitar that sounds more like rockabilly than anything else. In Monroe's own words, and here I quote from Bill Monroe, "Charlie and I had a country beat, I suppose, but beat my music, bluegrass music, started when I ran across Mule Skinner Blues and started playing that. We didn't do it the way Jimmy Rogers sung it. It speeded up, and we moved it up to fit the fiddle, and we have that straight time with it, that driving time." So you'll hear a significant difference. Listen to these two. This is Jimmy Rogers. Bill Monroe.
Good morning, Captain. Good morning, John. Do you love me, Billy? I love you this time.
Okay, that song took the Grand Ole Opry by storm and got him a permanent place at the Grand Ole Opry. And that's considered the first recording of a bluegrass song, Mule Skinner Blues. Okay, in the early 1940s, Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys spent some time developing their style, often sounding similar to other contemporary string bands. The most notable element of the band's sound was Monroe's high, cursing tenor voice and his driving mandolin. The Bluegrass Boys toured with the Grand Ole Opry's road shows and appeared weekly on the radio. Between 1940 and 41, he cut a number of songs for RCA, but wartime restrictions prevented him from recording for several years. And for this next recording, which is called Rocky Road Blues, I'm going to quote from a current bluegrass musician, Ricky Skaggs. Ricky Skaggs was listening to Bill Monroe when Ricky was a young boy, and Ricky is also familiar with what's going on, Elvis Presley, etc. All rock and roll is developing at the same time. And he said to me, Bill Monroe is the biggest rock and roll musician he had ever heard. He's the one that really inspired him. He had that same drive that they had. So let's listen to Bill Monroe do Rocky Road Blues. Now a little bit about the man, Bill Monroe. Bill Monroe was truly his own man. First and foremost, he was a striking figure. He is a 6-footer, he had a solid body, balanced posture, and confident manner made him seem much bigger. He would rarely lean against anything or put his hands in his pocket. I mean, he was there. He was a presence, okay? He was unhurried, but he had a ferocious work ethic. His strength was very real, truly that of a Highlander of yore. Once for a lark, he invited his band to get on him. One sat on his shoulders, one climbed on his back, and he held the other two in his right and left arms, easily supporting them all. Musically, physically, romantically, he was never allowed himself to be bested without putting up a fight and seldom lost. One provocation was rowdiness at his shows. If a heckler turned up, Monroe was known to put down his mandolin, go out into the audience, throw the loudmouth out, and return to the stage, often before the song was finished. It was in October, and what I'm going to talk about really right now is in that lower right-hand corner. It was in his mandolin. It was in October 1943, as best as can be determined, that Bill was in Florida, and while wandering around after breakfast, happened to pass a barber shop and look into the window. There for sale was a used mandolin. Monroe was looking for a second instrument, perhaps one to use for non-standard tunings. He went in and played it, and that mandolin was a Gibson F5 master model signed by Lloyd Lohr. Bill paid about $150 for it, and it was become the most famous single instrument in country music history. It sold a few years ago for $1.3 million. So I've chosen a little tune to play for you now, which it's kind of it's based on a series of 8-bar chase solos in the manner of swing or a jazz ensemble, but it features Bill Monroe's kickoff on his mandolin, and this tune is called Bluegrass Special. when you know, I mean, probably, maybe the very first time, well, I shouldn't speak for you all, but I think the first time I really heard much about bluegrass music was the Beverly Hillbillies. and you know, it was clear to me that one of the main voices in bluegrass music is the banjo. And up to this point, it's been Bill who's been playing mandolin, it's been guitar, fiddle, and bass. No banjo. And the first banjo player that Bill got into his band was a guy named Dave Stringbean Aikman, who was a combination of comedian and banjo player. So he wore funny pants. I mean, he was the first guy to do those lowriders, you know, that the guys wear around today. Right. What goes around comes around. It's just been recycled. It was there before. You probably should show that to a few of the hip hop guys and say, "Oh, that's old. Stringbean did it first." But all right. Throughout the 1946, the Bluegrass Boys were one of the most popular acts in country music, scoring hits and touring to large crowds across America. This is really interesting. At each town they played, the band would perform underneath a large circus tent they set up themselves. The tent would also host a variety of other attractions, including Monroe's baseball team, which would play local teams before the concert began. I mean, they were the whole thing. They came to town, they had their own baseball team, they set up their tent. There's a picture of Bill Monroe's baseball team over there on the right-hand side. That's the band. Okay, so I'm going to play an example now of Stringbean, who would be the first banjo player, and listen to the style of the banjo. It's not going to be anything like you recall hearing from Flat Scruggs and that kind of thing. It's kind of in the background. It's not prominent either.
Did they only play the South, or was there a calling up north for them?
Well, originally only the South. And the times that I'm talking about, I'm just going to take you up through to about 1949. And yes, the answer would be yes. But the next session in this series is going to be done by Bill Keith, and he's going to talk about past that, and then it's going to go all over the United States. So listen for the banjo in the background. And that's about it. I mean, it's not something that he's going to step out and give solos with. It's going to blinkety, blinkety, blink in the background. The next slide is going to talk about bringing the banjo in front and center into bluegrass music. In 1946 through 47, the band was composed of Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs, Chubby Wise, Howard, quote-unquote, Cedric Rainwater Watts, and Bill Monroe. And this group is called the original Bluegrass Band. It's the classic Bluegrass Band with all of the elements that were to define that Bluegrass sound. They had 28 sides cut at 4 sessions, and they're widely viewed as the cornerstone of bluegrass music. And Earl Scruggs came into the band, and you can see several pictures of him here. He was born in Flint Hill, North Carolina, and he had, in this area, they had a style called 3-finger style banjo picking. It's very different from any that had been in other areas, and he really developed that and became very proficient at it. How he came into the band is interesting. Bill interviewed, Stringbean had left the band, and Bill was looking for another banjo player. And Bill interviewed Earl in late 1945. He told Earl to come down to the Opry and let the rest of the band hear you play. And when Lester Flatt heard Earl play, he recalls, and these are a quote from Lester Flatt, "I never heard anybody pick a banjo like he did. He could go all over the neck and do things you couldn't hardly believe. Bill said, "What do you think?" And I said, "If you can hire him, get him, whatever it costs." So Flat was really convinced. Monroe wanted mandolin, fiddle, in Bill's thinking, Monroe wanted mandolin, fiddle, and banjo to be equally capable of playing entertaining, inventive solo breaks, and Earl Scruggs fit that part. So let's listen to a tune called Bluegrass Breakdown. First with the mandolin solo. It's said that, one of the famous tunes that Earl did was Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and this Bluegrass Breakdown is kind of a precursor to that. Yeah.
Question, did the string being used a 5-string banjo, or was that?
He played an old-timey style of banjo, which would be 5-string, but it would not have that resonator, it would have an open back. 2 more slides, and then we're going to have some live entertainment. You can say goodbye to me. We're going to have banjo and guitar today, and some harmonies. Harmonies by two of my favorite voices in all of the area here. Yeah, I've got a question.
The 2 older gentlemen, which is who?
Who is who up here?
Yeah, on the,
Oh, okay. That's Earl Scruggs on the right, top and bottom. In this picture on the top left, that's Bill Monroe on the left, Lester Flatt in the middle, and Earl Scruggs on the right. And then down in this picture here, this would be Bill Monroe, that's Earl Scruggs, Lester Flatt, and I believe that's Chubby Wise right there. Yeah, a little bit fuzzy, but I think that's what I thought.
thank you.
Last couple of slides. One of the other elements of bluegrass music that people recognize as being bluegrass is a high, lonesome voice. And so I'd like to play something for you. It's a tune called "I Hear a Sweet Voice Calling." And this is the first high lead trio in bluegrass recording history. Monroe sings lead, a high tenor, with Flatt on baritone beneath him, and Watts, a low tenor beneath that. And Monroe spoke about writing this song. So in Bill's words, "I could picture somebody having some little kid, a boy or a girl like I had, and then things turn out like that." And what he means by that is that, they get sick, they get ill, and they pass away. And many a time it was hard for me to sing that song. The other thing I would say is that I just can't believe that these people would ride around the country in that.
As opposed to what?
Well, as opposed to what you would today on a big mega bus. When Bill Keith comes here next week, ask him about riding. When he was with Bill Monroe, they rode around in what did he say, a 49 or 59? A 59, what was it, a 49 Dodge or something.
The entire band.
Yeah, he has good stories. But this is typical of the way they would get around them. Their instruments are on the top, and I won't spoil Bill's stories. Be sure you ask him about it. So let's listen to "I Hear a Sweet Voice Calling," and listen for that high tenor.
I hear a sweet voice calling, way up in heaven on high. Riding my room for you, darling. Oh, mommy and daddy.
One more element of bluegrass music, that high, lonesome sound. And I'm going to leave you now with one last slide, and it's a classic, "Blue Moon of Kentucky." And maybe the first time anybody here heard it was by Elvis Presley, but it was Bill Monroe's song, and this is Bill Monroe singing. Blue Moon of Kentucky. So I'm going to end with that. I guess I should also say, I really should, that anything that I've said here that I sound like I'm reading that I didn't write comes from a book by Richard D. Smith, The Life of Bill Monroe. It's a very good book. And then another from Charles Wolfe, the inserts of the Bear Family Records, Bill Monroe's music from 1936 to 1949. So there's my disclaimer. And so let's listen to the Blue Moon of Kentucky.
I have a number I'd like to do for the film entitled Blue Moon of Kentucky.
Anybody else have questions for Dave?
No, where did the hats come from?
The hats were actually, that's a Monroe thing too. Bill Monroe and the hats thing came when he first went to play in the Grand Ole Opry. He wanted to have the band look very professional. And in his own home state of Kentucky, there was this style, something like the horse rider style of the upper class sort of people. And they wore these jodhpurs, and they had tweed jackets, and they had these little string ties and the hats. So originally you'll see them, the very early pictures, you'll see the band in jodhpurs, etc. But he always maintained that he wanted to keep that kind of professional style, and that was really all very much a part of his formula for what a good musician or a good bluegrass musician would look like. They were Stetson hats, yeah.
For all the movement of the music, there's almost an absence of movement of the players, which is not the way you see this kind of music with the speed and all that today. I mean, what was that part of their we are really gentlemen who have to play music kind of thing, or was that just the way performers played?
Oh boy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I don't know if I even care. I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that. It's an interesting observation, I'll say that. But I can't give a good answer as to why. I mean, whether it was something that was, and I think in my parents' generation, things were very different the way they did things. It was really very...
Looking in the background, the guy on the piano, was it?
Yeah.
On the right side, he looked more like the kind of motion that you would see with Elvis Presley
Right.
around that 1950s time. But these guys just didn't have that movement.
Right, right. No, I hear what you're saying, but I can't explain it.
I think a lot of it too, it's in keeping with his insistence on decorum as well. I can't picture, for example, Phil Monroe ever doing the hip twisting thing that Elvis
Right, right. It's the way he was brought up.
Okay.
Okay. Without further ado, really, you want to you want me to sit down now because because who you have to play for you, Betsy Roan on guitar back there, and her buddy Joan are really two of the finest bluegrass musicians in our area, and. Of course, we've asked Joan to come because she's going to play the banjo for you, and I hope she's going to be able to demonstrate and talk about the kinds of things which were part of creating bluegrass music. The kind of things that I was mentioning before with the three-finger style that Earl Scruggs introduced into bluegrass music. So without further ado, here is Betsy and Joan.
But since you can hear us, I'll introduce Betsy and myself. We play with a local band called Two Blue. We actually play a mix of bluegrass, swing, original. We like to do a lot of different things, and so we're going to cover a lot of those bases with you today. I met Betsy. Would you like a brief history on how we met? We met in '95. We had a mutual friend of ours, a really talented banjo player. His name is Ben Freed. He thought we should meet. He knew us independent of one another. He set up what's called a pick-and party. Has anybody ever heard of that phenomenon? Where people get together and play. It's a big part of our social life. And he thought that we should meet. Well, I met her. She gave me a demo tape. I listened to it on the hour ride home. Sang harmony with her all the way home. We called her the next day, spoke for an hour and a half. And that was the start of it. We had a lot of similar interests, similar music, and we bonded. I'm sorry, I'm going to get all verklempt here. But anyhow, that was the start of our band, Two Blue, and over the years we've added bass and mandolin. Anything to add to that? Fiddle. And fiddle. We actually are fortunate, and you were fortunate enough to hear Kalia first week. We've had her on a number of our gigs. We released a CD this past year and had a fabulous fiddler from the city. His name's Rob Hecht. And Kalia's done a tremendous job. Not being Rob Hecht, she's certainly being Kalia, but she's joined us. We love the fiddle so much that we have her on as many gigs as we can. So, what are we going to do first? We're going to hit some banjo.
Yeah, thought we'd do a Flat and Scruggs number.
Yep.
They were the Foggy Mountain Boys. It was Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs, and the Foggy Mountain Boys, I think was the entire title of their act. They splintered off from Bill Monroe. They were originally part of Bill's band, and at a certain point they came to a crossing of the paths and split off. Much like cells divide, that's how Bluegrass grew, was by bands splitting off and forming their own bands and adding new members. And this is the Foggy Mountain Special.
Yeah. That's the whole nature of this music. We take what we call breaks. And solos, but in our music we call them breaks.
That's the breaks.
Them's the breaks, folks. So that was our little salute to Earl.
But you're not an Earl Scruggs style player, are you?
It's not what drew me to the music. It was interesting last week listening to Mary Daub and Mary Burdett from Gray Fox, and I will take a moment to make a shameless plug and actually just emphasize on the cohesive nature of this whole class here. We are actually fortunate enough to be playing at Gray Fox. So if any of you folks find yourself up in, is it Oak Hill, thank you very much. Friday night, we'll be playing in the Creek Tent, and we're thrilled. We're really proud to be doing that. Well, they talked about...
This Friday?
No.
No. This is July 20th, I believe. Mark your calendar. We'll be playing, as I said, in the Creek stage. But as they talked about the moment that their moments, the moment they were brought into Bluegrass, or the changing what they heard. For me, it's kind of an odd thing. I just decided when I was 23, living in New York City, working as a waitress, taking art classes, that I wanted to play the banjo. I didn't grow up hearing this. I actually grew up listening to Elton John show tunes. There you have it, top 40, Casey Kasem. And some ethnics, yeah. I listened also, though, to Pure Prairie League, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. That was my introduction to the Southern sound, as it were. So I just decided to start playing the banjo at 23, found a teacher. I studied with Jack Baker. Jack Baker? Does that ring a bell? Yeah, okay. In the village. But eventually I was fortunate enough to hook up with Tony Trischka. And I don't know if anyone has heard of Tony Trischka. He is considered the father of postmodern bluegrass music. And yes, and Bill Keith is actually, last night I was doing some studying. This is what I did until 2 in the morning. I was reading Tony's Masters of the Five-String Banjo, and it's a really amazing book. It may frighten you to know how many banjo players there are out there when you start to read it, and how many great ones. This book was up until, I believe, 2000 or 1998, and since then, there are a whole lot more. But I actually kind of came in the back door, I call it, as far as bluegrass goes. I listened to Tony, I listened to Bela Fleck, I listened to Bill Keith, and you folks are in for a huge treat to listen to him because he's an enormous part of history. He played what's called a melodic style banjo. It's played not on the same string. He rolls across the string and picks out the whole melody, whereas Scruggs fit the melody into his 3-finger rolls. But Bill would actually came up with a way to take a fiddle tune and play it note for note, basically. That's where I was drawn. And I, would revisit Earl. I kind of went back and learned Earl after learning Bill. So we're going to play an example of that. This is a tune called Blackberry Blossom, and it's in the melodic style. messed around a little bit in there on that. That's part of this music is improvising.
Just do a banjo chorus of,
What? We could do that. One of the other banjo players I wanted to hit upon was Don Reno. Don Reno was the pioneer of what they call the single string style. That's an excerpt from a song called Follow the Leader. And what he was doing, he was also trying to play note for note, but he chose to do it on the same string. He would play notes on the same string. And a bit in a guitar style. As Betsy and I were talking earlier, he was quite the guitarist. He's a very accomplished guitar player in his own right. He also was, Dave was talking about when Earl joined Bill Monroe's band. Bill actually considered Don Reno, but Don chose to re-enlisted and went in the war. So in that time when he was in the war, Earl kind of jumped into his slot, I guess. I'm not sure if Don was considering taking it anyhow, but Don went on to form his own band with Red Smiley, the Tennessee Cut-Ups.
was it Tennessee?
It was Tennessee, yes it was, ma'am. And he went on to do all kinds of cool stuff. So that's the single string style, and we actually use it. How are we going to do this? We do a swing tune called How Long Must I Wait for You? 1, 2, 3, and... So, for the rest of the banjo section, what do we want to do? Do you want to do Sweet Georgia Brown? Let's try that.
Sure.
We're going to show you how we incorporate, actually, we're just taking our bluegrass instruments and applying them to swing tunes. This is just a different use of the same instruments for the material that we like to play. What? Want to start now?
1, 2, 3. And I encourage you folks to get on YouTube, go out there and see what people are doing, because it will amaze you. We also need to speak about harmony. Do you want to cover any questions on banjo?
Do we have some questions? Sir?
Is one style considered to be more difficult or complex than another style? I don't know anything about any of them.
You know what, what do you think about that? Because I have another banjo player
I
here.
think any style can be taken to any particular limit.
It can all be hard. For me, the melodic, it also depends on who you are. I mean, the melodic style works better for me. I mean, my fingers tend to go in that direction. Some people are great Scruggs players, and that's what they center on. The single string style I find difficult if I'm not working at it all the time. If for whatever reason, that's the one that'll kind of fall out of my fingers faster than the others, but.
Does the guitar play in the same style, or is that not relevant?
Oh, she's not relevant, no. I have to take.
I would change my style if I am playing rhythm guitar for a Scruggs player compared to a melodic player. A melodic player is going to be very notey in a different sort of way, whereas the Scruggs player is maybe a little more rhythmic in their approach. If I'm going to play very traditional Scruggs with a player who plays very traditional Scruggs, I would be playing really simple. Somebody who was more adventurous in their style choices, one of these other style, I might go. And I would never do that with the Scruggs player.
It seemed, Betsy, it seems as if you were watching Joan's hands a lot. What keys were you picking up on? Or was I mistaken?
I was probably paying no attention to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say somebody's gotta watch. She was figuring out what she's cooking for dinner.
Pretty much what happens is when you're playing with another person, you use all of your senses to try to stay in rhythm with each other and to kind of figure out what the other person is going to do next. And that's what makes for a great ensemble, is using your ears. More than playing, it's listening.
And watching. You said oftentimes you watch and you'll see, you get cues, you do get cues from what people are doing. You also get used to what they do. I mean, everybody's got particular idiosyncrasies in their playing, and if you play with them long enough, by George, you get to know them. So,
it's like a great dancer. If they dance with another partner, is able to give them cues what they're going to do next. And a great partner will be able to pick up those cues.
Dance with me, Betsy. Well, actually, sing with me, Betsy. How's that? We obviously are not brothers. I guess we're sisters. So we're going to do some harmony singing for you. We can give you a quick explanation. Harmony's built, I'll just say quickly, in thirds.
What's that mean?
What does that mean? Anybody know what a third is? Okay, a few of you do. Well, in music, you've got a scale. Let's just start with, let's say, the G or C. C is the 1. This could go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C is 1. E is 3. G is 5. It's a triad, they call it. And it's a chord. The third is the interval.
8 steps.
8 steps. The third is the interval between the 1 and the 3, and then the 3 and the 5. It can be a minor or major. We don't have to get into that right now. But generally, Betsy and I have a formula that we do. I'll sing a tenor over her. I'll sing the lead on the verse, and then I jump up and grab what's called the tenor. The tenor is a third above the lead. Above that is the high baritone?
Yes.
Okay.
The melody is the lead.
That's
And
the 1.
the part above that, the next close harmony above that is considered the tenor. And then the next harmony above that is the baritone, or high baritone. And if you go in the other direction, you have the lead. The next harmony below that is a tenor, no, that's baritone. And then a tenor below that. So they go in groups of 3s. And you can have a sandwich any one of a number of ways. You can have a really traditional bluegrass harmony is built with the lead in the middle and a tenor above and baritone below. And a three-part harmony is the most classic bluegrass sound. The other duets were, because they were duets, had a melody, and since there was only one other part, they could move around. They could sing under or over, and they can even switch parts. They can, the melody can jump to one of the harmony parts, and the person who was singing harmony can jump and do some melody, and we do that a lot.
Well, we do, most of our vocal sound is built around a duet. We do have some numbers that we pull our mandolin player in to put a baritone. But most of the time we do have the freedom to do that, and Betsy will do a little bit of circling around.
What will happen is Joan and I will switch parts, and we do it just because we're trying to find a way to make our voices sound good in the pitch of the song. So which one do you want to try?
Do you want to try Sweetheart? We're pretty much staying straight on this one, isn't it?
Yeah, so Joan is going to sing the lead on the verse, and then I'm going to jump in and sing the lead on the verse, and she's going to sing a harmony to me, and this is what it sounds like.
This is a Bill Monroe tune called Can't You Hear Me Calling? 1, 2.
Let's do one of those where we switch around a little bit more.
You want to do I Fall to Pieces?
Sure.
Got any Patsy Cline fans out there? Now, we know this is not strict on bluegrass, but again, we've never purported to be. But this is an example. This is a swingier number that we do. If you listen to Betsy, near the end of she comes in on the chorus, you're going to kind of hear her do a little bit of jumping around there.
Yeah, I start out singing a high harmony to Joan, and then I move around. And these aren't cell phones here. These are called electronic tuners, and it helps us tune our instruments with. One of these days they'll have a cell phone.
Well, they are putting cameras on phones.
Well, actually, there's a lot of phones that have guitar tuners built into the phones. So that's progress.
There's an app for that. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1. slow one. We do a slow one and then close it fast.
Slow one and then close with the fast one, yeah, she's getting to it. Did you want to try the Claire Lynch one?
We could. Does anybody have any questions about the singing? Harmonies?
No questions,
No
okay.
questions, all right.
I'm going to do one,
I wanted to mention one thing, which
You
is you might
certainly
have
may.
noticed that we are not only not brothers, but we're not male. And
thank you for clearing that up.
And that's sort of a recent development in the last 20 years in bluegrass, that there are more female artists. And little girls growing up these days are deciding that they want to play banjo or the mandolin or sing like Alison Krauss or any one of a number of rising stars. And it's people like myself and Joan had to put up for years of, gee, you play real good for a girl.
We still get that.
Every now and then, yeah. But it's more common, and actually in the Northeast is one of the places where there are more women involved in music.
This is a song by a wonderful contemporary artist. Her name is Claire Lynch. This is a slow number that we're going to do for you. She's actually a native of Poughkeepsie, Kingston. Thank you very much. You know, I was going back and forth. She got it wrong. Anyways,
That's my job.
Absolutely. She eventually wound up in Alabama. This is a song she wrote called Hills of Alabama. I strongly urge you to catch her. She's got a wonderful new lineup of a band. Terrific songwriter. Send this out to Claire wherever she is on the road. Tomorrow finds another town. We'll be on our way. We'll hit the road and have a song. Then there'll be nothing to say for hours on end. God, won't you send me away to the hills of Alabama? I've been a long ways and I'm longer yet to go. And if you can't take me home, hear this weary traveler's plea. Bring all these songs of love to me. Tomorrow brings another town with six and smile. Tomorrow finds another place. Too many miles, too many hours to spare. God, won't you send me away to the hills of Alabama? I've been a long ways and I'm longer yet to go. And if you can't take me home, hear this weary traveler's plea. Bring all these songs of love to me. Bring all these songs of love to me. Did Lynn do that? I hear you folks like to sing along. I've got the words right here. I'll do a little bluegrass karaoke. Is that what we're? Let's practice here for a little bit. Oh, they tell me your love is like a flower in the springtime, blossom so fair. In the fall when they wither away, dear, and they tell me that's the way of your love. Sounds like a winner to me.
So we're going to do our harmony thing on the chorus. And if anybody would like to
want to thank Dave and Betsy and Joan for giving us a great session. Thank you very much.